And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Polizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Hello, my friends. This is Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 277 of This Old Marketing, recorded on Thursday, June 24th, 2021. And with me, as always, my good friend, my colleague, and a guy who's probably not going to be the next John McAfee, Mr. Joe Polizzi. How are you?
You said that whole opening very sedated, like more than normal.
Well, it was, I'm trying for a little bit of hi, that hello and welcome to the show.
You're purposely going in this direction for the Walter Cronkite effect?
I want to make sure that I'm not always sort of coming across as like over the top, like, hi, welcome to This Old Marketing.
Hello, welcome to this episode of This Old Marketing.
Exactly.
I like that.
Exactly.
I'm sure our listeners just love that I did that. They're like, ouch, my ears.
We just ruined it. We just ruined the quiet NPR opening for the Joe Rogan opening. So, it's trying for a little bit of shake it up here, be a little different.
No, you said June 24th, which is today, and I believe that somebody has a birthday coming up. Is this correct? Do I have the correct information?
You do have the correct information. My birthday would be Monday. Yes, that is correct.
This is very exciting.
It is relatively exciting. Yes, it is actually a 5 or a 0. So, it's a 5 to be clear. And I'm looking forward to. I will not be celebrating. I mean, I will be celebrating a little bit on Monday, but I'll mostly be celebrating, as I normally do when my birthday falls in the middle of the week, the following weekend with the 4th of July weekend, because I just sort of take a bit of an extened weekend.
And how will you be celebrating? Are you looking at assisted living facilities? I'm sorry. That was bad. That was just bad form altogether. But they do have 3 squares a day. So there's
they
that.
do. They do. They do offer that. And well, here's the thing. I got a note. It was a couple of weeks ago. I got a note from one of those places, which is north of here. It's actually just up where we go a lot, which is a place called Santa Barbara. And we spend a good amount of time up there on weekends and stuff like that at the beach. And it's up there, and it is a place where it's really nice. It's one of those really nice sort of assisted living places. And I did get a note from them saying, by the way, you need to make your reservation now, for basically your 10-year retirement date is when you want to make your reservations for this place because it's so popular.
Seriously?
And I was just...
They actually save the date type of a thing? In 10 years, you're going to be in the joint here?
Yes, they do. They just remind you that if you want a place in this, that the waiting list is about 10 years long. So you want to get it in. You want to get so that you're ready, so that you're prepared and you have peace of mind knowing. And it's just all of those sort of terms, when you, by the way, folks, I'm 55. I'm not like I'm turning like 90 or something. So let's just be really clear. So they,
I don't think they discriminate. I don't think they would discriminate. I think they would take you, if you're paying, they would take you at 55. By the way, they don't. No, you have to wait. No, it's crowded. That's the thing. It's the how full the joint is. I understand that. But my question is, they don't discriminate by age. Like if you wanted to go in at 55 and you made the cut, like you would get in, correct? Do you have
yes,
to be 65?
Theoretically, I think theoretically that's true. Although in reality, they don't have to. This place is one of those places where, quite simply, they don't have to do the marketing. Is literally this place is it's a little bit like In-N-Out. It's like an In-N-Out burger, right? They don't really have to market themselves. All they need to do is show you how long the line is, and you go, "Oh, I got to eat there."
Well,
right?
Well, they have. They probably have really good chili, or chicken noodle soup. I think that's probably why, right? And who doesn't want to have chili for lunch?
That's true. It is. It's a really good point.
But if you were in a place like that, I keep calling it a joint. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But if you were in a place like that, you would be highly entertaining. They probably would want you to come in because you could talk with everybody and you could play your keyboard, sing a little bit. You could do your podcast from the atrium.
Let's be really clear about this, folks. I'm going nowhere soon. I am not going anywhere. And I don't really have an interest in going to any of those places. If I'm walking into one of those places, it's because, I need to be in one of those places. So I'm not planning that for many.
But by the way,
I
don't know why I brought all this up. So I don't want to bring your birthday down. Because
Thank you. Yes. It's been such an uplifting part.
This is a grand occasion, especially the Big 5-5. That is something else. I mean, you're 5 years past when you can join AARP. So this is
yes. Thank you very much for that as well.
This is great news.
Yeah, it's all good.
How are you going to treat? Are you going to buy yourself something?
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm thinking about a Corvette. No, I'm not thinking about a Corvette.
Let your long hair.
I'm not having any.
Go and breeze with the top down.
Yeah,
it'd be like a Be like a poison.
Here's the funny thing. When I will say this, I don't. And much of it is because I'm blessed to not really be in need of much in my life. But I'm finding as each birthday that passes, I need less and less, right? All I want to do is, quite frankly, have a lovely day, have a nice meal, and sort of, just chill, right? I'm not these days. I'm not looking for a lot of presents. That's you know what I mean? And so it's funny because people, what do you want for your birthday? And I'm like, I'd much rather be surprised with stuff these days than I do have a want for anything.
I think that's true with anyone that gets beyond, let's say, 40 years old. I think that's just it. What are you gonna do? But you would look great in a Corvette.
And I would not. I would not look great in a Corvette.
Would it be red or yellow?
I don't. Well, if it was going to be any color, it would be red. But not a Corvette. I'm not a Corvette guy.
What are you?
I'm not a Corvette guy. I'm not a car guy, as people who know me know. I dislike cars immensely. I don't even have a car. My wife has a car, and she drives me when I need to go someplace.
That's nice. But, you have a driver. This is all coming clear to our listeners now. He basically he wakes up.
I'm driving Miss Daisy. Yes, I am Miss Daisy.
Well, you wake up. You just want a quiet day. You want no surprises.
Somebody drive me around.
If you have to go somewhere, if you have to go to the pharmacy or something like that, you have a driver that will take care of that. You usually have a drink toward the end of the day. It tends to be tequila.
I have dinner at 4 p.m.
Oh my God. You don't have to go to an assisted living facility.
No, I'm already in an assisted living
house.
I'm already in one. Oh my God. That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's good. I hope you have a great birthday.
Well, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to it.
I just celebrate. I'm not quite to 50 yet, but I'm getting awfully close. I just celebrated mine last month, so
yes, I know.
Catching up to you, at least from a percentage basis.
that is true.
That is true.
Yes,
it gets a little bit.
That narrows the gap. Yeah, each and every year.
Yeah, because once you pretty much get over 50, 60 years old, it doesn't matter anymore. It's all the same. Right.
That's true. Yeah.
And anyways, I'm sure we've lost all of our listeners at this point.
No, yeah, they've all turned off going, birthday? What the hell?
Well, we're very excited to announce our new show on aging and the aging process. And we are going weekly
Joe and Robert
shows,
talk about the Blue Plate special. Yes.
Weekly shows.
Hello.
We're going to do it from an atrium, a different atrium of a different facility each week, so that we can talk directly to our audience.
Oh yes,
what do we have going on this week?
We got some news this week to talk about. Let's keep me young and let's talk about the news. So the first story that we'll explore here is about the creator economy. Somebody I know and love is caring a lot about that these days. This article comes to us courtesy of The Information. Seems like they're making a lot of news these days, The Information. Anyway, the article headline is Investments in the Creator Economy Startup Ecosystem Hits $2 billion. An interview with Homebrew's Hunter Walk. The article opens up by saying, the deals and debut section of his newsletter is always hopping, and that's starting to show up in the numbers. Investors have poured at least $2 billion into U.S.-based creator economy startups so far this year, according to data compiled by The Information. For the full list of VC-backed startups, tune in next week when we launch our creator economy database. That sounds exciting. Ahead of them.
Can't wait.
Yeah. I talked to Hunter Walk, a partner at seed stage venture capital firm Homebrew, about why investors seem to have suddenly woken up to the sector. Walk attributes some of the influx to a new generation of investors who grew up on Tumblr and YouTube and understand startups serving internet celebrities can get big. As Walk said, part of venture is trying to figure out, as a young venture capitalist, where you have a competitive advantage against people who have been investing for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, Walk said. News cycles that have potential also gain momentum when you have new investors who need new areas to write checks into. If they choose wisely, then they have pioneered a new era. And then basically the article goes on to ostensibly just say the same thing over and over again, which is ostensibly that they buy low and sell high, and it's a really good time for content creators. What say you, Joe Pulizzi? Have anything to add to this wonderful news?
Get a couple things.
Yeah.
I think it's weird that The Information says it's at least $2 billion in the creator economy for startups, but we're not going to tell you the data, how we got to the data right now. We're going to save it for next week. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Is this
right? Stay tuned.
It's like in between.
Stay tuned for the next episode.
Yeah. It's like right after the next episode of Cheers. Norm falls down. They don't call they don't call his name this week. Whatever it is. I think that no one has an idea of how big this industry is or is going to be, and I think that's as I've been learning more about. And I hate the term creator economy, but I have to use it.
Yeah.
I don't like it because the creator economy doesn't...
Funny how the tables have turned on that one.
Know. The creator economy doesn't just include content creators. It includes other creators like on Etsy and eBay and things like that. And and we've talked about it on the show. The content creator business model is different from if you're making puppets. I don't even know why I came up with that. But I think it is different. Here's the thing. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This industry is because for whatever reason in the last year and a half, you've had venture capitalists, you've had big tech companies that have realized that they can make money with content creators who are not just doing a side gig anymore, or a side hustle, as maybe Gary Vaynerchuk will call it. They're actually building businesses. And that's what's interesting. And these businesses, they can spend money. And they will spend money, and they are spending money. And the data point that I would like to get to, and I haven't figured out a way to do it, maybe Robert, is I'm trying to figure out how you can tell if you say that the United States you've had X number of businesses started in America in the last 12 months, how can you show the number of those businesses that are content entrepreneurs? You can't. I can't figure out a way to do it right now. But I think that that's kind of what we're striving toward, because I believe nobody thought that the YouTubers of the world or the Twitch streamers or whatever would be able to be self-sufficient. Not even that, but to start hiring people and to start buying marketing services and data services and advertising services and really be the, this content creator, content entrepreneur is the one driving this entire creator economy. So,
yeah. Well, I think there is a way to get there. It would be a lot of work. This is always one of the biggest challenges of any marketer, which is figuring out your TAM, your total addressable market. And, I don't think there's any way to, and to be clear, TAM, estimating your TAM, is always going to be a imprecise measurement. Sure. And it's always going to be an order of magnitude that you're shooting for, not a precise number, which is why always that numbers like 2 billion and, market sizing like this are always a little suspect, because they're making it up, right? They're as much as anybody.
Oh yeah, remember the content marketing? Yeah. I forgot that one organization that said the content marketing industry is going to be 42 billion by whatever it was.
Right.
And we're like, how did you get that?
Right. That's exactly right. And so, we used to complain all the time about trying to estimate the content marketing industry by saying, even the content marketing technology industry, right? People used to say, oh, it's going to be $8 billion. It's like, how? How are you estimating that? Are you looking at just enterprise products? Are you looking at, Microsoft Word is ostensibly a content marketing creation tool. Are you including that in there? And then we have to include all the revenue of Microsoft, so all of those things become estimates for sure. There's a way you could do it. I mean, you could probably start to look at, the total number of blogs, podcasts, YouTube channels, et cetera, then separate out the numbers that are getting created by businesses versus individuals, and get to some number of, it would be a astronomically large number. And then you take that and you go, okay, great. You apply some filter to it, like those that, are looking to make money at it, which, by the way, research that you're conducting right now is starting to look at some of those things. Yep. And so you get to a number, right? And that would get you to a number. And to your point, the information next week will tell us how they got to their number. I think what they're looking at is going to be how many are getting money, right? They're looking at how many are actually taking venture money and how much venture money. That number is easily tracked. That number you can actually track with some precision. But I mean, that's like you say, that's the tip of the iceberg. The number of people who are doing this without taking venture money, I would hazard a guess, this is a hypothesis, I have no data to support this, that actually in the creator economy, there will be a much higher weighted success rate for those who don't take money versus those who do.
You're talking about the creators themselves, you're not talking about software, because the software, because really what this article's talking about, I think, is the software side of it, not the creators themselves. Okay.
That's right. But all of them, but here's the thing. Every single one of those pitch decks for the software has a number in it, has a market sizing number in it. I guarantee you. I'll bet you they all disagree.
Sure.
Right? They're all using, numbers they're either getting from you or somebody else off the street who's sort of said, it's going to be a $10 billion industry. So they're all those pitch decks where they're getting multi-millions of dollars to fund their software business is all predicated on some slide in their deck saying, here's the market sizing for this
remember
economy.
when we came out with the content marketing research and we said, we're guesstimating that between, I think it was 26% and 30% of the total marketing budget went to content marketing activities. That thing was in every pitch deck for 5 years after that number.
That's right.
And they always use that number. Like, we never really updated it at all because...
Well, I will tell you, it's from the other people who have now done research into that number has remained relatively stable, right? I mean, there are a few outliers there that say it's more or a lot less, but most of the research that's been done in the content marketing space finds that that's of your marketing budget, somewhere between 20 and 30% of it is going to be spent on content marketing. Now, how you define content marketing in there, it gets to anybody's sort of interpretation, but generally speaking, my experience is that if you look at that 20 to 30%, it's content. It is a content budget, not a content marketing budget. So, now you can argue that a lot of what we're doing with content is more often than not thought of as content marketing. So there you go. But how much of it is actually spent on owned media properties that, are built to design an audience to, blah, 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 as we would define it? It's probably something less.
Yeah. And it's so hard to tell, because if you, for example, I just did a podcast interview with it where we were talking about budget. And I said, if you're starting out to build an audience, you probably, if you're looking at time and budget, about 30% goes to content creation. About 70% should go to marketing and promoting and distributing that content, especially when you're trying to build an audience. Because if you spend 100% of your time on the creation, there's nothing left to market. Like, what are you doing here? And I think if you looked at a budget and you said, oh, we were paying for social ads, we're paying for influencer budget, we're paying for this distribution outlet, but those are marketing the content, does that go under your content marketing budget? Well, it should. But
right.
It might not. It might go under advertising. It might go under social ads. It might go under PR for influencer stuff. So
that's
really, it's almost impossible with how brands set up their budgets today to know, unless you're pulling it directly out of advertising.
And by the way, always has been.
It's never going to be.
Always has been. My favorite story about this, I tell this story all the time, so forgive me if I've told it here before, but there's a wonderful book that introduced from the 1950s, or it's 1953, I think the book was written, and I'm blanking on the author's name right now, but he's the guy who basically invented the 4 Ps: product, place, price, and promotion. And it's the book that he introduces the idea of the 4 Ps in that book. And the opening chapter of that book, the very first words that the author writes is basically, I have to start with an apology. He basically says, we spent years talking with companies, talking with CEOs, talking with all these companies, trying to figure out how they actually manage and measure their marketing budget, and we've not found a way to divide it up.
Oh my gosh.
We're just gonna start with saying it remains a mystery, but we hope that the rest of the book is valuable to you nonetheless. It's my favorite thing. I love it because it's like, it's so refreshing to go, yeah, they didn't have it figured out back then either.
That's so funny. I guess to wrap up this conversation here about the information and their $2 billion number, do you think that is it because big tech companies like Amazon and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn are so focused on this as a future revenue line that now everyone is paying attention to it? Doesn't that have a lot to do with it? I mean, they're just. Yeah. It seems like every week they're talking about.
Is it hyped up? You mean is it a bubble? Is it hyped up? Yes, it's absolutely all of those things. Is it overvalued? Probably. Is it a real thing? Yeah, absolutely. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. This is it almost doesn't matter that it's $2 billion.
Yeah, it doesn't. The numbers.
What this article is.
The numbers are.
The numbers do not matter. What this article basically says is it's a thing and people are doing it. And so you should probably try doing the thing. As he says very plainly in the article, tries to make it sound like it's a big mystery. Venture capitalists are trying to find early markets where they can buy in low and basically make a lot of money. Shock, that's what venture capitalists do. And so identifying this as a trend is not terribly difficult. The difficult part is going to be picking the winners and losers in this, and whether that ends up being the lion's share of a $2 billion market or the very small part of a $5 or $10 billion market doesn't matter. It'll all come out in the end, right? So it's just basically saying, hey, it's something you need to pay attention to, and the rest will play itself out.
But it's so interesting to me when you think about how important the art and the process is for building an audience, because we talked about it all the time. Everyone's a media company, right? Everyone's a publisher today. Well, literally that's as true as it could ever be. And you have every company and almost every individual out there creating some form of content today. So you're like,
well, funny you should mention that.
Did I do a segue? This episode of This Old Marketing is sponsored by Marcom Gather. There's nothing worse than wasting countless hours looking for digital files on your intranet, shared drive, desktop, cloud storage, or Excel files. The list goes on, right? Say goodbye to the days of overflowing, unorganized file storage, and hello to finding files with speed and clarity. Marcom Gather, your new favorite digital asset management solution, empowers your team to stay organized so you can get back to the parts of your job you enjoy. With Marcom Gather, you can quickly centralize assets, eliminate unorganized file storage, and best of all, never lose track of your files again. Experience Marcom Gather for free for 30 days at marcom.com/TOM. That's for This Old Marketing. And make sure you go there because we want them to love us. Marcom.com/TOM and get Marcom Gather free for 30 days.
You did a segue, my friend. You good boy. Good boy. Good boy. You did a segue. Dog. Yes, our next story is exactly that. We're going to pair really 3 stories together that came out this week. It seems like it's in the air for the first part of summer here. The first one we will link to comes to us courtesy of CNBC. And the headline, so it's mainstream news here, and the headline is why big companies like, yeah, well, I mean, it's, when you hear the headline, you're going to go, wow, they actually covered it. Next thing we'll know, we'll have Kramer covering it. Why big companies like DoorDash, 3M, and HP are making films. The article opens up by saying, on Monday at New York's swanky Standard Hotel, about 100 people sat around picnic tables and munched on small bags of popcorn. Why do they always feel like they got to open stories like that? All right. They munched on small bags of popcorn for the screening of a short film about restaurants in the city during the pandemic, including those that had been forced to close their locations. The film, made by DoorDash, one of a number of film screenings in recent weeks that was made or sponsored by a brand. Brand films aren't a new concept, but they're gaining cachet as marketers increasingly seek ways of reaching consumers who are trying to avoid advertising and consumers increasingly seeking out brands that appear to share their values. Gosh, I wish there was a word for that. That article then goes on to discover a number of brands, including 3M, and they speak to HP, that goes on and talks about that. What we'll pair it with is another story from The Drum, so ostensibly across the pond, and basically talking about the same thing. And the headline there is why brands like L'Oreal are creating their own TV shows. And that article opens up by saying L'Oreal is the latest brand to experiment with producing a TV series. But can they convince commercial broadcasters and streaming platforms to air it? L'Oreal has created its own TV show that it hopes by season 2 may be picked up by the likes of Netflix or Amazon. Pepsi, AB InBev, and Nike have also been exploring their potential as production companies in recent months. Ambitious marketers have tried similar experiments in the past, but experts say the battle for original content between streaming services might finally mean brands have the chance to make it a success. The article there goes on to talk about L'Oreal's professional products division, who created a 7-episode series called Run La Hair Show, which will predominantly target hairdressers and stylists through the beauty company hopes it will be just as appealing to non-professionals. And it goes on to describe their strategy and what they're talking about behind it. What do you think, Joe? I mean, are we just now discovering this, or is this just it's a slow news week, so they're figuring this stuff out, or is this becoming, as we talked about in the creator economy, are we now starting to pierce the veil of mainstream media and have them go, oh, this is a thing. We should be paying attention to it. What do you think?
When you put together the show flow for this, I saw both articles beforehand too. You could have put these 2 articles 2 years ago, or 2 years before that, or 2.
Of course,
it's almost like it's all, right. and I guess both of these articles talk about this as an experiment. Well, how long is 20 years? Is 30 years an experiment? How long is this experiment? Right. It's weird. Like, they just found this. Oh my God, L'Oreal is doing this. I'm like, yeah. I mean, this has been done for hundreds of years. Why is it always news? I guess back to you. When is the
or
day
why
going
isn't
to be
it
where
always
this is not news?
What? Right. Or why isn't it always news? I mean, here's the thing. This has been happening, like you said, for 20 years. And, it still fascinates me that Adweek doesn't talk about it. Ad Age doesn't talk about it. When these things hit, it seems like they go out of their way to not talk about this, except in cases where some reporter puts 5 and 5 together and goes, "Oh, this would make an interesting angle to a story that I could tell."
I want to break this down because this is important. Why?
Yeah.
Why do the Ad Ages and the Ad Weeks of the world push stories like this away, like they don't exist?
Well, there's the conspiracy theory part of me that says, that this is a direct affront to their primary business model constituent, which is the ad agencies and the runners of 30-second spots, sort of paid media spots. And so creating an owned media format that would ostensibly go around advertising, as both articles point out, by the way, is something they just don't do.
Yeah, because so the missions of those companies are built on interruption by marketers. Right, that's what you're
correct.
Saying. And this, if done well, which we don't know if it's being done well, but if L'Oreal and if DoorDash do this really well over a consistent period of time, it is the antithesis to interruption.
That is correct. And by the way, I would argue in the most ironic of all ironies, this is Theodore Levitt's marketing myopia in action, right? This is Ad Age and Ad Week and all of the advertising-based industry not understanding that they're in the transportation business instead of the buggy business. It's if you said, what is the mission of Ad Week or Ad Age, I would say it's to further the marketing strategies, marketing and advertising, if you want, strategies of companies, not to focus on interruptive-based advertising, right? That's basically being in the buggy whip business, not in the transportation business.
Oh, great point. And also a really good example of how a brand can hold you back because they are actually Ad Week and Ad Age. And they're looking at one small aspect of marketing. They're becoming smaller every day, by the way, the advertising line.
Yeah.
And they're focused on this particular, and where you have the Drums and the marketing dives of the world that are taking market share away from those once stellar, the largest brands in the media space and marketing space. Now they're losing market share because of that. So it's just a little side note. I'm thinking that this is, sponsored advertising is not the right word either. I mean, that's why we espouse to content marketing. I am shocked that even The Drum would cover it like this. Like it's new material. I don't get it.
It's a very, well, it's, this to me in both articles basically reeked to me of two, I'm sure, very talented reporters who said, here's 3 data points that I'm noticing. I can make a story out of this, right? I can make a story out of this, and basically both publications going, sure, do that. That's an interesting angle. Take that angle, write the story, do the whole thing. And this especially true in the CNBC version, because that could have been built, and seems it was built around one event, which was the New York City DoorDash event. And then it's sort of like, oh, that's a fun thing to cover. Let's cover, CNBC. It's a good summer story. It's a feel-good story. We can cover the DoorDash thing, but we need something to beef up the story. What are we going to do to beef up the story? Well, we can go out and we can talk about other examples, right? We can talk about, the fact that, who do we know? Well, we know somebody at NBC Universal, which is their first, by the way, source that they go to. Why? Because CNBC, of course, is part of it. And they can say, who internally knows about this stuff? Great. We'll get a producer from one of the NBC Universal things, and we'll talk about all the things they're doing. Gosh, that gives me some meat for that story. And then we're going to need some other sources just to sort of round this thing out. So they go, great. And then they basically write the story. It starts with the DoorDash thing. They throw in a couple of other examples that are internal, and then they basically bring it right back around to the DoorDash story, and and I've created a story. Wonderful, except, it's frustrating for those of us in the business that have been focused on this, because you look at that and it's as if they've discovered something brand new that is, they've put this together in an innovative way. And we're going, by the way, L'Oreal acquired makeup.com 20 years ago. By the way, 3M has been doing this for, 10 years, right? And by the way, every single one of the companies that they mention here have also struggled mightily with this, depending on which regime was in power, which CMO was calling the shots, which VPs were actually politically in power in some of these organizations. Quite frankly, many of these organizations that they mention here, and we know from firsthand experience, are, I'm reminded of when one, I won't say her name because throw her under the bus here, but I will tell you one case study that used to be everywhere. Every single content marketing deck had it as an example of sort of like the quintessential example of great content marketing. And she would always say, yeah, I know we're always thrown up as the poster child, but I wish somebody would tell my boss, because I'm fighting for my life every single day here.
I remember when she talked to us about that, I was floored that she had so much trouble selling that program. And we were out there talking about it like, this is the best ever.
Right. She's winning awards. They're all this thing, it's like, and she's trying to ultimately, make a business case for it every single day. This, hashtag the struggle is real. Anyway, I think it's great. I'm glad to see it getting attention. And hopefully it won't be just a one-off like it usually is. By the way, we'll also link to one other story in the show notes, which is yet another version of this. This from Axios, and again, it seems to be, I guess it comes in threes or something. The Axios this week ran an article that says American Express's Departures magazine has now relaunched as a digital property. And the article goes on to say Giant Spoon, a marketing agency known for its work with big brands like HBO and Hewlett-Packard, is relaunching American Express's luxury lifestyle magazine Departures as a digital publication for members. And then the Axios article says, why does it matter? Well, ad agencies don't typically act as publishers, although they do often create content for their clients. But given the pressure for brands to connect with audiences online, it makes sense that American Express would shift its publishing operations to an agency with digital experience. Again, yay, I'm glad they covered it. But one, American Express has historically done that, by the way, with all of their content marketing types of initiatives, including Small Business Network, and others do the same thing, outsource their entire operation to either agencies or agencies within publishers or customized, companies that do this. So it's like saying that's it's like, oh, we've just discovered this thing, water. We've just discovered it's wet.
Yeah, it's so funny because, by the way, this is custom publishing. This is the industry that I grew up in, and that's what custom publishers did. And all the magazines, all the major magazines coming from any big brand around the world generally came from a full service custom publisher. Now they're called marketing services companies, and not usually ad agencies, but that's not even the story.
Content marketing agencies,
exactly. That's funny that they covered it that way. But my issue with this is the same one that we talked about last week with American Airlines losing their way and the opportunity with, that print publication. Departures as a print publication is an institution. And again, I'm not saying they're making the wrong decision going online. I will probably put money on the fact that it's not going to work. They're going to put it behind a paywall, digital paywall. I don't know whether they're going to measure it by. Are they going to measure it by the number of page views, that subscribers get to this exclusive place that they can go. If they were going to do it, they should open it up for everyone. But that's, not my take at all. Or no, it's not my place to say. What I would say, double down here with an amazing print experience.
Oh, it's exactly right.
Why? Where you just read this? Something that's it makes sense to go with a digital age. Yeah, because you're going digital. But why go digital? What's the reason? Are people reading the print less? Are you talking about is because you can't make money on it anymore or whatever? They have, and this is especially for American Express, because American Express has their Centurion clubs. Have you ever been to a Centurion club? Yes.
Oh, yeah,
I love them. They're amazing, right? They're like, a United Club or American Airlines Club times 50 because they're luxurious and they pamper you. And I love American Express. And if you have basically an American Express Platinum card, you get in.
I get it. I get Departures. I'm a Platinum card holder, and I get Departures, and it's amazing.
It is an amazing publication. So now they're stopping it because they're going digital. But they don't. I guarantee you, nobody made the. I think somebody just said, "Oh, yeah, of course we're going to cut the print because nobody does print anymore." The whole short-sighted use of data is killing me here. Like, I want to see something about they have measured this for the last 2 years and they found that people were not engaging in the print publication, or it's completely destructive to the environment and we can't live with that anymore. I can deal with that kind of a reasoning. I can't deal with the fact that, we're a digital first company, so we should be digital. What?
Yep. Yeah. It's frustrating. It's frustrating for sure, because you're absolutely right. It's not only that it's been handed off to a digital agency for putting behind a paywall, which I would agree with you wholeheartedly is not probably going to work. I'm certainly not going to go seek it out now. One of the things about Departures for me was always the surprise and delight of it arriving. Right? In other words. Oh, right. I completely, of course. Yes, wonderful. Boom. I get to sit down with it on a Sunday, or I sit down with it at breakfast one day and just sort of go through it. And it's a wonderful thing. But it was never something I was sort of sat down at my desk and went, okay, today I'm going to log into Departures. And, that's, to me, it's just a different kind of experience. And to your point, losing that engagement and the data associated with that is, it just seems like a bad idea. It seems like a bad idea. I mean, I understand that Meredith, the original publisher, we go back to the Flight Airline magazine kind of thing, and Meredith was the publisher, the outsourced, by the way, creator of this. So it's not like they're just discovering outsourcing either with American Express and this agency. They had outsourced it to Meredith before that. And then now Meredith says, we're not going to publish it anymore. There may have been many reasons for that, as part of their acquisition, reorganization. They may have said, it's not, the business model's not working for us anymore. So American Express goes, okay. Instead of doubling down on it, to your point, they went, let's not make it let's not make it better. Let's make it dead.
Well, here's the thing.
Last week's thing.
To that point, in fairness to American Express, if Time purchased which this has happened, Time purchased the magazine from American Express. Time was purchased then by Meredith. So, theoretically, if Time owns the rights to the print publication of Departures, Meredith could have made the decision all on their own and didn't need any kind of permission from American Express.
That's a fair point.
Now, if that's the truth, then if you're American Express, you purchase the rights back. And you're able to publish it. Because that's the thing. We've talked about it forever. Media companies they don't need to do this anymore, but they historically only judge a media property by revenue and profits. That's where content marketing comes in, and it's so wonderful because you can judge it by direct profit on the magazine itself or the media property itself. You can judge it by because you're creating better customers. Maybe they spend more. You can judge it by loyalty because maybe they stay longer as customers. You can judge it by cross-selling. I mean, I think we did a little chart in our book, Killing Marketing, that talks about all these things. So that's where the opportunity is for a brand over a media company, because you don't have to judge it by just one KPI.
Yeah.
So that's where
Boy,
American Express. If American Express, somebody knows American Express in their marketing department, go buy the rights back if you don't have the rights, and look. And I bet you could republish this thing. And by the way, you only need to break even. They don't make money, as far as I know, from their Centurion Club. But it is a great,
no, of course not.
Great member benefit.
It is a great experience. It's one of the major reasons that you pay the $500 a year that you pay to have a platinum card. Right. You know, so yeah. The other thing I'll mention quickly, because we want to move on to our last story here, but the if you're not American Express, what I would love to see is somebody like SoFi or one of these fintech companies that are starting to really get into this luxury market. Maybe it's even Goldman Sachs or somebody like a classic company. Go, you go acquire the rights. You go get it, right? You know, there's no reason that they shouldn't start doing it either, right? By that whole thing.
That's a great idea. I love your pick of SoFi too, because SoFi has a lot of money behind them, and they're looking to take market share quickly. And this would be a great way. Again, there's so much. It's so difficult today and challenging, and it takes so much time to build an audience online. You can break through
These
all
media
the
brands
clutter.
are right there.
Break through all the clutter with a print publication today, and people thinks it's old school, but the data says the opposite. The data says it works. Talk to any print publisher out there right now; they will tell you. Blah. Get off my lawn.
Blah, blah. All right. Our last story we're going to cover very quickly here is something that's also very interesting. It sort of segues nicely. The whole show is segued very nicely here. This comes to us courtesy of a publication called Finbold, which I was not familiar with until you sent this story over, Joe. And I'm now fascinated with this publication. But anyway, the article is U.S. podcast revenue expected to surpass $1 billion in 2021, news most lucrative genre. The article opens up by saying the podcasting world has recorded significant growth in recent months, with more consumers showing interest in different genres. The growth is now reflecting on the revenue side as more advertisers aim to capitalize on the sector. Data acquired by Finbold indicates that the United States podcast advertising revenue is projected to surpass the $1 billion mark for the first time in 2021 to hit $1.34 billion. The figure represents a growth of 59% from the $842 million revenue recorded last year. They go on to provide quite a bit of information from different sources, namely PwC and the IAB for podcast revenue. And then they go on to explain a little bit of the future of podcasts. Good article, I thought, and very interesting data statistics. What say you? We are certainly not. We're seing some very small elements of that, but we're not making $1 billion.
Well, I think a lot of that money is going to a lot of the podcasts that actually get listeners.
Yes,
very top heavy. The ones that get listeners,
right? Yeah.
Those are the ones that generally get the advertising support. So I think that's
fair enough. I guess that's a good point.
Well, here again, I think we finally hit whatever that point was where you got the majority of people with smartphones that have their app that they prefer to get podcasts on, and they listen to. All you have to do is start listening to one podcast, and then you get, I'm going to get another one, and now you're a podcast listener. And the more and more that happens,
right,
we're still in the first couple innings of this thing happening. This is going to get very, very big. It seems like every celebrity, the easiest thing, the lowest hanging fruit that you could launch is a podcast. You basically need no money to get to start a podcast. It's just time. So there's a lot of clutter out there, and there's a lot of really horrible podcasts. That said, that's where you're seeing advertising revenue go, because you not only have the fact that you have the numbers now and people are listening to podcasts, you've got chief marketing officers or VPs of marketing. It's sort of the sexy thing to do right now is to sponsor a podcast. You have, what did we talk about a couple weeks ago? HubSpot launched their podcast network. You're starting to get bigger brands involved in this. So you've just seen the start. It's a really good area to be in from a coverage standpoint. If you want to advertise, there's plenty of wonderful places to advertise. It's great for creators, but man, it is very competitive to break through.
It feels like this is space. Yeah, it feels like this is a space where if it's really, if it's really going to evolve in a better way than television and radio advertising evolved, because right now it is still anybody's guess, in terms of, the best people in the world doing research on this, I would say, is Edison Research,
sure.
What Tom Webster's crew is doing, and providing for the most listened shows, the, ratings, as it were, in some of this. But it's still that's as good as, it's a sampling, right? It's a sampling and it's not really any more sophisticated. I mean, I don't mean to deprecate anything that that Edison is doing here, because it is survey based, but it's still survey based, right? In terms of which podcast do you listen to, which, et cetera, which is classic way that Nielsen ratings did TV ratings and all of that for television shows, and MRI in the past did radio and all of that. So I wonder if there's something that is going to evolve here, if there's a way to evolve this in a way that starts to, because there's so many different ways to listen to podcasts, whether it's Spotify or Apple or Google Play or, all these different places
Amazon,
where you can get your, Amazon, so YouTube, all these different ways to get it. If there's just any way to, it seems like a very intractable problem, and it's one, boy, if somebody figures out how to solve this, is going to be big. Because if this is again, coming back to, if this is a real thing, if this economy is podcasting and sponsorship is a real thing, then there's an opportunity here to solve a very, very big problem here, which is measurement.
Well, and I think that if you're going to have somebody do it, I think it's going to be Spotify, because this is Spotify's business, and they are already. How many times did we cover Spotify outside of Joe Rogan? But they are doing deals to get exclusive content. And if you're on the Spotify platform, they open up a new suite of measurement tools that are not available through other, hosting services that you have. So I think Spotify.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that's the challenge with that is that is, of course, the store manager managing the sales, right? In other words, the level of trust that you have to have in the actual company that you're placing the advertising by with is the same one telling you how much you got. And it's just a hard thing to swallow, right? That need for a third party to come in and provide, you've dealt with this in your past with magazine auditing and all the rest of it. How do you get really accurate numbers of audience? It's just a difficult thing to do. It's a difficult thing for us to do, even as owned media, much less, something that we're paying for the ability to get in front of.
We have proprietary data. Like, we can say that we know how many people listen to it on a smartphone device, how many people listen to it on Spotify. Generally doesn't include YouTube. We have to get those numbers separately. And, theoretically, if somebody listens to it on their desktop, we should get that ping too. But the thing is that nobody else from the outside can get that information. That's what you're talking about. Like, you can't. Right. And you've had you've had some emails this week because you're trying to figure out. So, I want to know this data for this industry, and I want to know who are the media companies in that area. You have to take their word for it. You absolutely do.
Yes. Thank you for that. I'm going to put out a plea to all of you, right? To all of our tens of listeners out there. If anybody knows, if not, this is a huge business opportunity. I would love there to be a system where I can go in and configure. Let's say I want, VPs of marketing at Fortune 500 companies at, basically attribute to define my audience. And then I hit submit. And what I get back is a list of the most targeted and maybe sorted by popular magazines, websites, email newsletters, etc. Basically a media planner's dream, right? Where instead of looking at it from the other way around, which is always like, look at the most popular websites and then, individually try and figure out which ones have your target audience. I want it the other way around. I want to have my start with my target audience and work out to the most popular magazines and list. And I understand that is a data, mountain of information to maintain, and keep track of and make current. But I have not found any solution out there that does that. By the way, not that's not like a custom, because I know there are companies out there that do this, right? I know that there are companies that you can pay a lot of money to, and they will go out and ultimately, do a custom research project for you on, Nielsen and ComScore and all, SRDS and all of that. No, I want a tool. I want a small and medium-sized business tool for us to manage our omni-channel media plan. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and I mentioned when you were asking, I thought SRDS, Cantor's SRDS would be the service, and that is a service.
Yeah, it is a right. It is a service
that would give you some of the data.
That's right, and it's very similar as I understand it. I mean, please, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I understand it is, I go out and hire them as I would Nielsen, and I pay my $200,000 a year subscription to them, because I'm a huge ad agency and I can monetize that over the course of a year of different clients, and I get access to people who can run custom reports for me. That's not what I'm looking for. I
thought you should still do a lot of self-service with that, but I could be wrong because it's been a long time since I've used that.
Maybe, but so then I'll blame their marketing, right? Because their websites are all so opaque that I can't, we help the paradigm changing solutions of paradigm shifting industry changes with audience changing measurement changes and the paradigm programmatic changing shifting of the synergies between agencies and consumer. It's like, Robert, just tell me what I want to know.
You're just behind the times. That's the thing. The great subscriptions today, you really don't know what you're going to get. It's like that Loot Crate box. They're going to send you stuff. It's going to be great, but you don't know what it is. It's like the loot. You want the Loot Crate of media buy.
That is so true. That is so true. I do not want. That's what is offered to me. Is the Loot Crate of media buying. That is such an awesome way to say it. That is exactly what you get these days. You go pay your money, and every Thursday a black box shows up on your doorstep, and you open it up and go, "Ooh, buyers of collectibles."
Yeah, I've never thought about that market. Trends Maybe we should target that market.
Ooh, great. Exactly. Yeah. Trends in NFTs. Ooh. Yeah.
Oh God.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we need to move on here to our rants and raves section, which is, of course, the part of the show where Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave over something that makes us feel like, well, I'm not even going near the John McAfee jokes. I mean, that was just
I didn't even
comment
just
crazy.
On it because it's just
it's just insane. Just go read about that guy for it. It's insane. And of course, he passed away this week. Probably. Yeah, I'm not even going near it. Anyway,
let's not say we did.
Move along. I have a very short rant. What about you? Do you want to go first?
I got a really quick commentary. Okay. It's actually very similar to what we've been talking about, and I guess I get in these ruts where I get focused on print media, and I just see these huge opportunities. Kind of like you just mentioned, this huge business opportunity. I think the opportunity in print is better than it's been in 20 years. And there's a story here from the New York Post, of all places, that says Drew Barrymore is launching her own magazine. I don't want to focus on it necessarily because I think Drew Barrymore should have her own magazine, but I think you're going to see these things happen. There is, and especially with celebrities and companies that already have an audience, that already have a customer base, that already have a group of people that would gladly pay a little bit extra. Like I think Drew's is going to be a quarterly publication or something like that. It's going to be on all the stuff that Drew likes. And if fans of Drew Barrymore are probably going to easily pay, $9.99 a year for something like this. And not that it has to be revenue generating. If you're a company, you could measure it a bunch of different ways, but I really believe that right now is an amazing opportunity to look at print if you're not looking at it I think that you are missing it. Samir Husni, friend of ours, friend of the show, says in this article, this genre of magazines is proving to be what the doctor ordered during this pandemic and beyond. I expect to see more partnerships like this. Basically, Drew's partnering with a media company to do this in the future. Service journalism is a must. The celebrity is the icing on the cake. Don't be surprised if in the next 12 months you see Twitch streamers, YouTubers do really crazy things like launch a print magazine. So I just think this is right, almost just a foreshadowing of what's to come in the very near future. And it's simply and by the way, I love a print experience. I love the lean back experience of print versus the lean forward that you're looking for on a website or a Google search. But wow, the no competition thing just hits you right in the face and says, well, I can get the attention of somebody that nobody else in my competitive set can. That's what this is doing. So there you go.
Yep. Very cool. That's a very, very cool idea. The whole, what I had running through my head is what you were talking was sort of the Logan Paul magazine.
Yes, I mean, yeah, right. I mean, you're going to see the Joe Rogan,
right? The
magazine.
Yeah.
I mean, we go in fits and starts with this. So this has happened before, but the timing has never been better from the fact that they already have these audiences built online, and then just to get a mailing address and a very small payment ongoing is not you only you get 1-2%, 3% conversion on those things, and it's a lot of money, and it's a great touch point.
That's exactly right.
So there you go.
Yeah. Mine is a very quick rant, and it's basically just did you see the whole press conference with Ronaldo?
I read some of the stuff. I didn't watch the
meme.
press conference, but I've seen the stories. Yeah,
it's basically the meme that if you haven't seen it, folks, is that Ronaldo, the very, very famous, very, very rich soccer player or football player, basically at a press conference sits down. And one of the main sponsors, of course, is Coca-Cola. There are 2 bottles of Coca-Cola sitting on the table. He looks at them with disdain, moves the bottle of Coke, and then sort of shows a bottle of water in some sort of thing, right? And basically the meme that's going around, and this is my little rant, is there's this meme going around on social media, mostly on LinkedIn. I've seen it like 4 or 5 times now from people saying, the power of an influencer, to shake down Coca-Cola for $4 billion of value with one small move, and it's always said with, sort of, breathless and, sort of, oh my goodness gracious, here's brand value being destroyed by someone, usually in the sense of, basically, I don't know, throwing Coca-Cola under the bus of some way. And I just stop with that nonsense. It's just nonsense that he basically destroyed $4 billion worth of value of Coca-Cola. It's just not true. First of all, it's not true. Technically, it's not true because the dip that the stock took that day happened before he actually did the press conference. And second, it was already due for a dip because it was meeting resistance as it started to go up. And, Coca-Cola has had a bit of a challenge with profitability and has had some challenge with, while their revenue is up, they're not doing great from a profitability standpoint due to the pandemic and issues and all sorts of things that, are bigger than we're going to talk about here. The point being, even if it did, let's just say for a moment that it did destroy $4 billion of value. Let's just put that into perspective for a second, because at $240-ish billion of market cap right now, where Coca-Cola sits, that would be the equivalent of, let's say you were worth $100,000, right? So if you had something that was worth $100,000, it would be the, $1,600 came off of your, basically off of your bottom line. It's just, first of all, a speck in the day-to-day fluctuation of what's actually going on. It's 1-point-something% of the actual stock price that day, or the valuation that day. But it didn't. That's the more important point. And just passing that on is just a silly thing, because it just reminds me so much of where we get lost in this whole idea of how much power some of these influencers really have, and what goes viral on social media and how that equates to business results are often conflated way, way, way too much. So that's my rant.
First of all, that's lazy journalism to make those kinds of comparisons.
Well, it's not even journalism. It's like, it's people like, I mean, there were some sadly news outlets that covered this as well, because it's a sexy clickbaity headline. But yeah, it's mostly like marketing people spending. You know what?
I listened to Nathaniel Whittemore, NLW. He's got that crypto podcast I listened to, and he had Lynn Alden on, and she's a analyst in the industry, and they were talking about narrative and the importance of narrative, or the not important parts of narrative. And they were saying, basically, we always give too much credence and too much power to the narrative, when many times market forces are so much stronger and what's really happening underneath. So we do this as humanity. We think that, oh my God, China bans crypto. What's going to do? Is that going to kill everything? Everybody sells off. And then you realize that, oh, well, it really isn't that big of a deal. And what's the underlying fundamentals with it? It's the same thing in this case. Does it really do anything? Does it really affect sales? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's a non-issue.
That's right.
But we have to cover it because we think, oh my God, the story has changed. This is going to be a thing. It usually isn't.
That's right. Right. The last thing, that's exactly my point, which is, in marketing, we want to be taken seriously. We want to be taken seriously at the C-suite. We want to be taken seriously in terms of our impact on the business, and we want to be taken seriously as storytellers and as narrative creators when we actually do positively impact the business. So let's not overblow and on the other side. And so, you know what I mean? Let's be careful about where we take credit, because then we have to accept credit on the other side too. So it's just sort of getting real about our impact and where we can have impact, and where we don't want to conflate things, because quite frankly, putting the fear of God into our CEO or our CMO about something like what Ronaldo did is exactly the wrong thing for us to do, because when we start training them to think that way, our leaders to think that way, that's when they start saying stuff like, well, let's not take any chances at all. And so, that it's in our own best interest to not say the sky is falling when the sky is definitely not falling.
That's a good point. It's like attribution. Yeah. Actually, we always say,
that's right.
We did this thing and it was because of this that we got all this business. And that's never the case. It's always multiple things. It's never just one thing.
That's right.
There you go.
That's right. How about you? Where are you? What are you doing this week?
I got some family things that we got planned, so that should be interesting. And on Sunday, I'm taking my youngest down to the University of Kentucky for orientation. So that will be a wonderfully boring drive. No, it's not the most exciting 5.5 hour, 6 hour drive, but I'm very excited to get him down there. He's looking forward to it. So start our collegiate journey.
Fantastic.
So there you go. How about you?
That's
birthday
wonderful.
Celebrations next week. So
birthday celebration, it's a very minor thing on Monday, which is my actual birthday. But then, more importantly, getting ready for the long weekend, which I can definitely use, as we have been, wheels up, as they say, for the last couple of months here. So it'll be nice to step away from the screen for a bit. So that's what we got. And then of course next week we're back here. So
there you go.
That's it. There you go. There you go. So that's it. We're signing off. If you want to get all the goodness, by the way, of this podcast, show notes, all those links that we talked about, which you can use to educate yourself or dive into any of the other 276 episodes, just head on over to our wonderful website, won't you? ThisOldMarketing.site. We want to thank the good folks at Radix for powering our .site domain. And if you want your own .site domain, get on over to Radix and get yourself a .site domain. It's fun. And until we meet again, remember, folks, it is your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing.